The galactic threat. The galaxy was on the brink of disaster. All across the stars, a deadly force was making its move. The mysterious alien empire, known as the Zorath Collective, had been expanding rapidly for decades. Their ships, massive and unstoppable, crushed anything that dared to stand in their way. Planets burned, entire civilizations were wiped out, and the galaxy's once thriving cities turned into smoldering ruins. The Zorath were ruthless. They had no mercy. For centuries, the galaxy had been a peaceful place, with different races living side by side. But everything changed when the Zorath arrived. Their technology was far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. They wielded weapons that could shatter planets, and their warships were like nothing anyone had ever encountered. The Zorath had one goal: to conquer everything in their path, leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. As they moved from one star system to the next, the other races of the galaxy tried to fight back. The Keldari, a race of giant, winged creatures, sent their best soldiers to battle, but they were destroyed in minutes. The Varnak, a fierce reptilian species, launched a counterattack with their most advanced fleets, but they were crushed without mercy. The Federation, a group of allied species, sent every ship they could spare, but even they couldn't stop the relentless Zorath advance. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was united in fear. The Zorath were unstoppable. No one knew how to defeat them. The Zorath ships were too powerful, their weapons too advanced. The galaxy's best warriors had been reduced to nothing more than dust, their homeworld swallowed by fire and destruction. In the midst of all this chaos, one name kept coming up: Earth. The humans had always been considered weak by the other races. They were a young species, new to the galaxy, and had only recently joined the galactic community. Earth had no significant military power, no advanced technologies, and no alliances with the older, more powerful species. But still, something about the humans intrigued the Zorath. How could they stand up to us? One of the Zorath generals asked, sneering as he stared at a holographic map of Earth. They are nothing. The Zorath had never encountered a species quite like humanity. Their record in battle was almost non-existent, and the galactic powers thought they were harmless. But the Zorath saw potential. They saw humanity as a small, weak species, but one that could be useful as slaves or cannon fodder. They could either destroy Earth quickly or subjugate them for their own purposes. Either way, Earth wasn't going to survive the Zorath invasion. The galaxy's leaders, watching from the comfort of their well-protected planets, didn't think humanity would survive either. They had dismissed Earth as a minor player, a species far too weak to ever make a difference. No one paid much attention to the humans, no one except the Zorath. But the galaxy was wrong. The Zorath fleet, numbering in the thousands, moved toward Earth with terrifying speed. The first wave of ships arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system, a fleet of colossal warships that could easily wipe out entire planets. Their weapons were powerful enough to turn Earth's cities to dust, and their soldiers were trained to invade and conquer without mercy. The galaxy watched as the Zorath ships aligned themselves in orbit around Earth, preparing for the invasion. As the Zorath prepared their attack, the leaders of the galaxy felt a sense of dread. They knew that once Earth fell, there would be nothing left to stop the Zorath. No one was strong enough to stand in their way. The galaxy would fall, one star system at a time, until the Zorath ruled everything. The humans, however, had something the Zorath didn't expect. They had a will to survive like no other species. While the rest of the galaxy watched in fear, Earth's leaders were planning something different. They didn't have the advanced technology of the Zorath, nor the immense military power, but they had something far more valuable. The humans had ingenuity, determination, and the ability to think in ways that no one else could. On Earth, the highest military officials were already in action, preparing for the worst. Scientists and engineers worked day and night, designing new technologies and weapons. There were whispers of something hidden deep beneath the surface of the Earth, something powerful, something ancient. No one knew for sure what it was, but there were rumors that humanity had something the Zorath couldn't even imagine, something that would change everything. As the Zorath ships descended, the humans prepared for a battle they were not supposed to win. They had no choice but to fight, to stand their ground and defend their world. And though the rest of the galaxy had written them off as weak, the humans were about to show that they were anything but powerless. In the dark corners of the galaxy, no one knew what was coming. The Zorath were confident in their victory, certain that Earth would fall like all the others. But they didn't know the humans. They didn't understand that sometimes the most dangerous species isn't the one with the most advanced technology. It's the one with the greatest will to survive. The stage was set. The Zorath were ready to invade, and Earth was ready to fight back. What would happen next would change the course of galactic history forever. A mysterious signal. As the Zorath fleet prepared for their invasion, something unexpected happened. A strange signal began to pulse through the vast expanse of space, originating from Earth. The signal was unlike anything the Zorath had ever encountered. At first, they thought it was just a glitch in their system, perhaps some stray frequency from the human communications network. But the signal persisted, steady and constant. The Zorath's best engineers and scientists tried to decode it, but they were baffled. It was clear the signal wasn't random. It had purpose, structure, and most importantly, it was a message. The tone was subtle, almost hidden beneath the waves of static, yet unmistakable. But no one knew what it meant. The more the Zorath attempted to analyze it, the more they realized that they were dealing with something completely outside their understanding. Back on Earth, however, the signal wasn't a mystery. The humans knew exactly what it was. It was a call for help, but it was also something more. It was a warning. The signal was sent by a hidden military force that had been preparing for the day the Zorath would come. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, in an undisclosed location, a secret warship was being constructed. The humans had known for years that the galaxy was a dangerous place, and while the rest of the world believed they were safe, a small group of visionaries had begun preparing Earth's greatest weapon, a warship that could change the balance of power. No one outside of this elite group knew about the ship's existence. The warship was designed in secret, far from prying eyes, a ship that could match the advanced alien technology of the Zorath. The human leaders, aware that their resources were limited, had built the ship not just as a weapon, but as a symbol, an answer to the question that haunted every corner of the galaxy. How do you fight a race that cannot be defeated? The signal was their way of saying, "We're ready." But as the Zorath fleet neared Earth's orbit, their arrogance led them to dismiss it. They assumed it was simply the humans attempting to contact allies, perhaps a last-ditch effort for help. They didn't see it as a threat. After all, what could Earth possibly have that could stand against them? However, something strange began happening. As the signal continued to pulse, a sudden surge of energy emanated from the depths of Earth's atmosphere. The Zorath ship's sensors, designed to detect any form of resistance, began to glitch. It wasn't a malfunction. It was as if the very fabric of space was reacting to the presence of this unknown force. The Zorath commanders were puzzled. They had expected to see no defenses. Instead, they were confronted with a sudden wave of interference, one they couldn't explain. Back on Earth, the final stages of preparation were underway. The humans had mobilized their forces, but it wasn't an army they had built. It was a ship. The warship was a marvel of human ingenuity. It was massive, larger than any spacecraft the galaxy had ever seen. Its engines hummed with quiet power, its hull reinforced with a material unknown to any other species. The weapons were designed not for brute force, but for precision, firing at speeds and angles that would confuse any enemy. But what made the ship truly unique wasn't its technology. It was its crew. Every member aboard the warship had undergone intense training for years, preparing for this very moment. They weren't just soldiers. They were humanity's last hope. A single crew of determined individuals, each with a unique skill set, each with a personal reason for wanting to fight. The captain, a former engineer turned military leader, was a visionary who had dreamed of this moment since childhood. The first officer, a brilliant tactician, had studied alien warfare for decades. Together, they had molded the crew into a unit that didn't just rely on strength. It relied on unity, creativity, and courage. As the warship powered up, the crew felt the weight of the moment. They knew that they were about to face an enemy far superior in numbers and technology. Yet there was no fear, just determination. The Zorath had underestimated them for too long, and now it was time to show the galaxy what humanity could do. The signal had been sent for a reason. It wasn't just a call for help. It was a challenge. As the Zorath ships entered Earth's atmosphere, expecting an easy victory, the humans prepared to show them something the galaxy had never seen before. The message from Earth wasn't a plea for mercy. It was a declaration of war. A war they would not lose. And so, as the first Zorath ships approached Earth, they were met with something they never expected. The skies above Earth darkened, and from the shadows emerged the warship, a symbol of human strength, innovation, and defiance. The battle was about to begin. What the Zorath didn't know was that humans had already made the impossible possible. They had created a weapon that would shatter the battlefield. And this time, it wouldn't be the Zorath who would conquer. It would be humanity's turn to change the course of the galaxy. The human response. The first Zorath ship entered Earth's atmosphere with all the precision of a predator closing in on its prey. Its massive metallic frame blotted out the stars as it descended toward the planet's surface. A wave of fear rippled across the galaxy as it became clear that Earth had no chance against such an overwhelming force. But just as the Zorath fleet was ready to strike, something unexpected happened, something no one had anticipated. From the shadows of Earth's orbit, the human warship emerged, a leviathan of steel and firepower. Its sleek, angular design was unlike any craft the galaxy had ever seen. The ship's exterior glowed with an eerie, otherworldly light as it powered up, thrusters emitting a low hum that vibrated through space. For a moment, it seemed like the calm before a storm, a quiet lull in the face of an unimaginable force. But this moment was short-lived. On board, the crew readied themselves for the conflict ahead. They had spent years in preparation, refining their skills, studying alien tactics, and training in the harshest conditions imaginable. This was not just about fighting a battle. It was about proving that humanity could stand shoulder to shoulder with the galaxy's greatest powers. The crew's eyes were sharp with focus. As the ship's captain stood at the helm, staring at the view of the incoming Zorath warships, there was no hesitation. The Zorath may have thought they had already won, but humanity wasn't about to let that happen. This was Earth's moment. "Captain, the Zorath ships are locking onto us," the tactical officer said, his voice steady yet urgent. "They've already begun to fire." The Zorath were fast. Their weapons were built for sheer destruction, and their ships were designed to overwhelm. It wasn't just about firepower. It was about size, strength, and numbers. The humans were vastly outgunned, yet they stood their ground. The captain's face hardened as he activated the ship's shields. He turned to his crew, his eyes filled with resolve. "We've trained for this. Trust in the plan," he said, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 battles. The first shots from the Zorath fleet came like thunder, bolts of energy, pure and deadly, shot toward Earth's warship. The crew braced for impact, but instead of disintegrating into dust, the human warship's shields flared with a brilliant light, absorbing the Zorath's initial barrage. The Zorath were stunned. Their weapons had been designed to pierce through the toughest of shields, but this was something different. "Shields holding at 75%, Captain," reported the communications officer, her hands moving swiftly across the console. "They're adapting their fire frequency." The Zorath weren't fools. They recognized that Earth's defenses were stronger than anticipated. They immediately began adjusting their strategies, switching from energy-based weapons to missiles. But the humans were prepared. They knew the Zoreth would adapt quickly. The captain smirked as he made the call to engage the warship's main weapon system. "Prepare the graviton cannon," he ordered. The graviton cannon was humanity's greatest invention, a weapon unlike anything the Zoreth had ever encountered. It was designed to manipulate gravity, bending space and time itself. The weapon could create concentrated gravity wells, capable of crushing entire fleets or redirecting the trajectory of enemy ships. As the crew activated the weapon, the ship hummed with raw energy, the very fabric of space warping around them. The first shot was devastating. A wave of force shot from the warship, hitting the closest Zoreth vessel with such precision that it was torn apart in an instant. The massive ship didn't just explode. It was crushed by the gravitational forces, its hull collapsing inward as though it were made of paper. The Zoreth, for the first time in centuries, realized they had underestimated their enemy. The remaining Zoreth ships faltered for just a moment, thrown off balance by the unexpected power of the human weapon. That split second was all the humans needed. Firing again. The captain shouted, eyes locked on the battlefield. The warship unleashed another graviton blast, this time hitting two Zoreth ships at once. The first was completely obliterated, while the second was thrown off course, crashing into a nearby asteroid belt with a thunderous crash. "Keep the pressure on them," the captain said firmly. "Don't let up. We've got one chance to show them who we are." But the Zoreth were not easily deterred. They began to regroup, their ships coordinating in a way that suggested they were more than just mindless destroyers. They had adapted, quickly closing in on the human warship. As the battle raged, the humans knew that this wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the future of the galaxy itself. And yet, amidst the chaos, the humans weren't just fighting with technology. They fought with ingenuity, with creativity, and with a fierce determination to protect their home. They used every advantage they could, bending the environment to their will, using stealth tactics to avoid detection, and relying on quick thinking to outmaneuver the Zoreth. The Zoreth fleet, though vast and powerful, was beginning to crack. The humans were unpredictable, and they fought with a resilience that no one had expected. They had gone from being seen as an insignificant species, an afterthought in galactic politics, to becoming the galaxy's last hope. Every blast of energy, every maneuver, and every decision was a testament to humanity's resolve. The Zoreth had thought they were facing an easy victory. They were wrong, and as the human warship continued to rip through the Zoreth ranks, it became clear that this battle would be remembered for centuries to come. This was not just a clash of weapons. It was a clash of ideologies, a battle for the soul of the galaxy. The humans had already made an impact. They had sent a clear message to the Zoreth and to every race in the galaxy. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The tide turns. The battle raged on, a chaotic spectacle of light and destruction. The Zoreth fleet had regrouped and adjusted their strategies, but humanity's warship was proving to be an unpredictable nightmare. What had started as an overwhelming invasion turned into a test of survival as the humans fought back with relentless ingenuity and courage. As the Zoreth ships tried to regain their formation, a sudden, unexpected move took the enemy by surprise. The human warship, its shields flickering from earlier hits, made a daring maneuver. It broke from its position at the center of the battlefield and sped toward a nearby asteroid belt, drawing the Zoreth vessels into a trap. The Zoreth were aggressive, always moving forward, always seeking to overpower, but they underestimated the terrain. They had no idea how humans could turn the very landscape against them. With precise calculations, the captain ordered the warship to deploy drones, small but heavily armed, which scattered among the asteroids. The warship itself dove into the belt, its sleek body weaving through rocks and debris at unimaginable speeds. "Deploy the drones," the captain commanded, his voice steady despite the rising tension. "Make sure they can't escape." The drones, equipped with powerful magnetic pulses, latched onto the Zoreth ships that ventured too close to the asteroid field. With each pulse, the Zoreth ships were momentarily disabled, their weapon systems and engines locked in place. In seconds, the ships were rendered motionless, floating helplessly among the jagged rocks of the belt. "Zoreth Ship 451 is immobilized," reported the tactical officer, her fingers flying over the controls. "Targeting their fuel reserves now." The human crew worked with a speed and efficiency that would have seemed impossible only hours before. The Zoreth, once the undisputed masters of the galaxy, were being dismantled, piece by piece, by a small group of humans in a single warship. The tables had turned. But just as the humans seemed to be gaining ground, a new wave of Zoreth ships appeared on the edge of the battlefield, overwhelming the few drones that remained and swarming the human warship with their devastating firepower. "We can't hold them off much longer," said the first officer, a veteran strategist who had seen her fair share of battles. She looked at the captain, a brief moment of uncertainty flashing across her face. But the captain had no doubt. He knew the human resolve was the key. "This is just another test," he said calmly. "We've outsmarted them so far. Now we finish it." He ordered the ship's graviton cannon to be recharged. The massive weapon hummed again, its power coursing through the ship. As it recharged, the captain ordered a full system scan, analyzing every possible weakness in the Zoreth fleet's formation. "Activate cloaking," he instructed. For the first time in the battle, the human warship vanished. It had a cloaking system that rendered it invisible to the enemy sensors. The Zoreth were confused, desperately searching for the warship, but the humans were already several steps ahead. The warship didn't hide. It moved. The captain's voice was steady as he issued his next command. "We'll use their own tactics against them. Prepare for a surprise attack." The cloaked warship drifted silently toward the heart of the Zoreth fleet, slipping past their defenses unnoticed. The Zoreth, thinking they had control of the battlefield, continued their search for the invisible threat. They had no idea the true danger was lurking right in the middle of their ranks. When the graviton cannon was fully charged, the warship deactivated its cloaking and emerged from the shadows. The crew unleashed the weapon with a decisive shot, its pulse of energy splitting the void as it raced toward the nearest Zoreth flagship. In an instant, the flagship was torn apart, its massive hull bending under the gravitational force of the blast, collapsing into itself like a dying star. "Target locked on flagship," the weapons officer called out. Direct hit confirmed. The Zoreth were stunned. The flagship, the pride of their fleet, was now nothing more than space debris. The remaining ships hesitated, the first seeds of doubt creeping into their commanders' minds. It was a massive blow to the Zoreth morale. They had seen humanity as weak and insignificant, but the destruction of their flagship was a stark reminder of their vulnerability. In the wake of the attack, the humans didn't stop. They pressed their advantage, using their superior tactics and technology to pick apart the Zoreth forces one by one. Every shot, every move, every decision was a reminder that humanity wasn't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. On the bridge of the warship, the captain observed the destruction unfolding before him. He could feel the pulse of victory coursing through his veins, but he knew they couldn't afford to slow down. The Zoreth might be rattled, but they were not yet defeated. Their anger would only fuel their next move. "Prepare for a counterattack," the captain ordered, already planning their next move. "We've shown them our strength, now we finish it." With the graviton cannon recharged, the warship began its final push. But this time, there was no cloak, no more hiding. The humans were ready to meet the Zoreth head-on, showing them that their victory was no longer in their hands. As the final battle unfolded, humanity's warship cut through the Zoreth fleet like a knife through butter. The tide of the battle had officially turned. The Zoreth fleet, once unstoppable, was now in full retreat. The humans had proved themselves in the unlikeliest of circumstances, against overwhelming odds, against a far superior enemy. And as the last of the Zoreth ships disappeared into the depths of space, the humans stood victorious, their warship still floating proudly above Earth. The galaxy would never forget what had just happened, and neither would the Zoreth. Humanity had arrived, and they had arrived to stay. The price of victory. The once intense battlefield had turned eerily quiet. The Zoreth fleet, now a scattering of debris across the galaxy, was retreating. Yet, for all the triumph in the air, a feeling of solemnity hung over the crew of the human warship. Victory had been achieved, but at what cost? On the bridge, the captain stood still, staring out at the void. The remains of the Zoreth flagship were still drifting in the distance, a symbol of their triumph. However, the silence in the aftermath of battle was deafening. He had watched his crew fight with determination and courage, but they had lost many comrades along the way. "Report," the captain said, his voice cold but steady. "Damage control teams are on their way to the lower decks," the tactical officer replied. "The ship's integrity is stable, but we've lost several crew members in the fight. We'll need to mourn them later, Captain." The captain nodded, his expression unreadable. The war was over, but the loss of life weighed heavily on his heart. The human warship, for all its power, could never replace the lives it had taken. This wasn't just about destroying the Zoreth. It was about ensuring humanity's future. But at what cost? "We knew there would be casualties," the captain said, more to himself than anyone else. "This was the price of survival. We fight for a future, but we must never forget those who gave their lives for it." As the captain left the bridge, he walked through the narrow corridors of the warship, passing crew members who were tending to the wounded. Their faces were tired, some were bruised, others had bandages wrapped around their heads or arms. But despite the exhaustion, there was something unspoken that held them together. A sense of pride, a sense of unity. They had been through hell and come out victorious. One of the engineers, a young woman with a tear-streaked face, met him in the corridor. She had worked tirelessly, fixing the ship's critical systems during the battle. Despite the emotional toll, she stood tall. "Captain," she began, hesitating. "We've lost so much, but we've also proven something today." The captain looked at her, his gaze softening slightly. "We've proven that humanity is not to be underestimated, but we've also learned a hard lesson. War takes everything. It takes lives, it takes time, and it leaves scars that we may never fully heal. But we've won," she insisted, looking up at him with a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "We've shown the galaxy that we're not just survivors. We're fighters. We're strong." The captain gave a short nod, then placed a hand on her shoulder. "Yes, we're strong. But strength isn't just about winning battles. It's about remembering who we are and why we fight. We fight for peace. We fight to protect what matters most." As the captain walked on, the weight of the war still pressed down on him. The cost of victory was never truly known until the battle ended, and now humanity had to face that cost. But he knew that this was only the beginning. The Zoreth had been driven back, but the galaxy was vast, and the actions of humanity had already begun to echo through the stars. In the aftermath of the battle, reports flooded in from various sectors of space. It was clear that the Zoreth were not the only threat. They had been the first, but they would not be the last. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of ancient enemies and new challenges. Yet humanity had just proven that it could stand its ground. "We've made an impact," the captain said to himself as he entered the warship's command room. But the real fight is just beginning. A holographic map of the galaxy flickered to life in front of him. The Zoreth were retreating, but there were other empires, other factions, that would soon take their place. The captain wasn't naive. The galaxy had never been truly peaceful, and now humanity had shown that it was no longer just a bystander. It was a force to be reckoned with. "We've sent a message," he muttered, "but we need to be ready for what comes next." Meanwhile, word of humanity's victory was spreading across the stars. Some civilizations were cautious, waiting to see if humanity's resolve would hold, while others were in awe, wondering how a species that was so new to the galactic stage could possess such power and strategy. The Zorath, humiliated by their defeat, began to regroup, their leaders secretly plotting revenge. But even they knew that they could never look at humanity the same way again. The humans had shattered their assumptions. They had shattered the galaxy's assumptions. Earth was no longer just a small, insignificant planet. It was a symbol of resilience, of courage, and of unimaginable potential. The captain looked out of the warship's viewport, staring at the distant stars. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. As the crew cleaned up the wreckage of the battlefield, as they mourned their losses, and as they celebrated their victory, one truth became undeniable. Humanity had not just survived, they had conquered. And now, the galaxy would have to come to terms with that fact. In the silence that followed, the crew knew something that the rest of the universe would soon realize. The age of humanity's dominance had begun, and it would be a force that would change the galaxy forever. The rising storm. After the dust of the battle had settled, Earth's warship drifted silently through the remnants of the Zorath fleet, its hull scared but resolute. The crew had performed miracles, turning the tide of an impossible battle, but there was still much to be done. The war was over for now, but a deeper storm was beginning to form on the horizon, one that would test the very heart of humanity. The captain sat in his command chair, his mind working through the many layers of the unfolding crisis. Though the Zorath had retreated, they weren't defeated. Not yet. The defeat they'd suffered would sting for a while, but they had resources, allies, and most importantly, an unyielding desire for revenge. The Zorath weren't the only threat humanity would face. The universe was a vast and hostile place, and the victory had only sent ripples through the galaxy, catching the attention of powers far beyond the reach of Earth. The warship's sensors flickered to life, bringing up new data. Dozens of unidentified ships were appearing in distant sectors. Their trajectories were erratic, and their speed was unlike anything the humans had encountered before. It was clear that they were coming for Earth, or at least for those who had dared to challenge the galactic status quo. "Captain," the tactical officer spoke up, her voice laced with a hint of unease. "New ships on the radar. Multiple signals, all heading toward our position. They're not Zorath, but they seem to be organized. This could be the beginning of something much bigger." The captain stood up slowly, his mind working furiously. He had suspected this day would come, but nothing could have prepared him for the scale of what was unfolding. The Zorath had been a powerful enemy, but now it appeared that a far more formidable force was making its move. "Patch me through to Earth Command," the captain ordered. "We need to know what we're dealing with, and we need to prepare. This isn't over." Moments later, the screen on the bridge flickered, revealing a communication link to Earth Command. General Marlowe, the head of the Human Defense Forces, appeared on the screen, his face weary but determined. "Captain, we've been monitoring the situation. There's been a sharp increase in enemy fleet activity in the nearby sectors," General Marlowe began. "We've identified several galactic empires mobilizing in response to the human victory. They've been watching us closely since the Zorath engagement. Now they see us as a threat." The captain's eyes narrowed. The universe had always been a place of uncertainty, but humanity had never been seen as a significant player until now. The general's words confirmed what he feared. Their victory had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, and now the entire galactic order was about to be reshaped. Humanity was no longer a small, insignificant race. They had just proven their worth as warriors. "So, what are we facing, General?" the captain asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the rising tension. "We don't have all the details yet, but we know that at least 3 major empires are mobilizing. The Vrix, the Darnath, and the Tsilian. Their fleets are massive and technologically advanced," General Marlowe replied. "They've always kept to themselves, and they're not the types to forget an affront to their power. They'll likely come together, form an alliance of sorts. They won't stop until they break us, and we've only just begun to understand what we're up against." The captain's mind raced. He had no doubt that these empires had been keeping an eye on Earth, but he had assumed that their focus would remain on the Zorith. He had underestimated how far-reaching the consequences of their victory would be. The galaxy was a vast network of alliances, rivalries, and power struggles. And now, humanity was at the center of it all. "We need more intel," the captain said after a long pause. "We need to know what these empires want, and we need to prepare our defenses. How soon until they arrive?" General Marlowe grimaced. "At least 2 weeks, maybe less. They're moving fast." The captain turned to his crew, his voice firm. "Prepare the warship. We need to make sure we're ready for anything. Set up defensive systems. I don't care if we have to improvise. We're not going down without a fight." As the orders were given and the crew scrambled to prepare, the captain found himself staring out of the viewport once more. The stars beyond had always seemed so distant, so peaceful. But now, they felt ominous. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity's place within it would be determined by what they did next. The silence on the bridge was palpable. The crew could feel the weight of what was coming. The victory against the Zorith had been a triumph, but it had come with a price. And now, humanity was about to face a greater challenge, one that could either unite them or break them. The captain stood tall, despite the uncertainty. "We've made enemies today," he said, his voice steady. "But we've also made allies. We've proven that we can stand on our own, that we will not be crushed by any force. We are humanity, and we will fight for our future." The crew nodded, their resolve solidifying. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about proving to the galaxy that humanity's strength wasn't just in their ships or weapons. It was in their hearts, their minds, and their unbreakable will to fight for what was right. As the warship prepared for its next confrontation, humanity stood ready. The universe may have underestimated them, but they would soon learn that humanity was a force that could not be ignored. And when the storm arrived, humanity would not just endure, it would rise above it. The Galactic Showdown. The warship's engines hummed with an almost unnatural power as the crew prepared for what lay ahead. Humanity had never faced a threat like the one approaching, and every crew member knew that the battle they were about to fight would be more than just about winning. It was about survival, about securing a place for humankind in the galactic order. The captain stood at the helm, his fingers tight around the armrest. The enemy fleets, vast and menacing, were moving into position. The Vrix, the Darnath, and the Tsilian were coming, and they were bringing everything they had. It wasn't just about military power anymore. It was about the very idea of humanity. Would they back down as the universe expected, or would they fight with everything they had? "Captain, all systems are ready," the communications officer reported, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "We've got the fleet locked in position. We're ready to engage when you give the word." The captain's gaze shifted across the holographic display in front of him, where the enemy fleets now loomed large, their ships a sea of sharp angles and imposing silhouettes. For the first time, he felt the true weight of humanity's decision to stand firm. This was no longer just about fighting for survival. It was about asserting humanity's place in a galaxy that had underestimated them. "Captain," said the tactical officer, a young man who had only recently joined the crew, "we've detected a strange energy signature from the approaching fleets. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. It looks like a weapon, something capable of disabling our systems from a distance." The captain's heart skipped a beat. If they had a weapon like that, it would cripple their entire fleet before they even got close enough to retaliate. "What's the range?" he asked, his voice low. "Approximately 30 million kilometers. It's in their long-range strike capability range, but we can't be sure of its full potential. We may be able to outmaneuver it, but it's risky." The captain was silent for a long moment, weighing his options. There was only one way forward. He had to make the first move. If they waited, they would be playing into the hands of the enemy, and humanity would never get a second chance. They had to strike fast, strike hard, and let the galaxy know that humanity wouldn't be intimidated. "Prepare all weapons systems," the captain ordered, his voice firm. "We engage as soon as they're within range. Full firepower on the lead ship, and hold nothing back. We'll make our stand here, or we'll die trying." The crew went into motion, their faces set with a quiet determination. They knew the stakes, and they were ready. Their warship had proven itself in battle, but this fight would be different. The galaxy had never seen humanity's true power. This time, they would show the universe just what humanity was capable of. As the enemy fleets approached, the captain studied the approaching ships, watching for any sign of weakness, any opening. They had been watching the humans closely, learning their tactics and adapting to their strategies. But humanity had something that no other species could replicate: ingenuity, creativity, and a refusal to back down. The first wave of enemy ships moved into range. The energy weapon signature flared brightly, and the first blast shot out from the enemy lines, a beam of energy aimed directly at the human warship. It was fast, too fast. But the captain wasn't taken by surprise. "Countermeasure sequence Delta 2, now," the captain barked. The crew worked in perfect unison. The warship's shields flared brightly, absorbing the first impact. The ship rocked slightly from the force of the blast, but it held firm. The energy weapon had been powerful, but humanity's technology had been advanced enough to withstand it, just barely. It was a narrow escape, and it wouldn't work again. "Full power to the engines," the captain ordered. "Prepare to move at maximum speed. Let's show them what we're made of." With a deep rumble, the human warship surged forward, dodging another incoming blast from the enemy ships. The energy weapon shot past them, but the human ship had already anticipated the trajectory. It was a move the enemy hadn't expected. The humans were agile, fast, and relentless. "Fire all forward cannons," the captain commanded. The warship unleashed a barrage of energy fire at the nearest enemy ship. The blast hit its mark with deadly accuracy, and the enemy ship erupted in a ball of flames and debris. But there was no time to celebrate. The rest of the enemy fleet reacted quickly, launching an assault of their own. They had underestimated humanity's speed and determination, and now they were forced to play catch-up. But they were not done. The Vrix, Darnath, and Cillian fleets unleashed their full firepower in retaliation, turning the battlefield into a chaotic whirl of light and destruction. "Incoming! Energy weapon from the lead ship," the tactical officer shouted. "Brace for impact," the captain yelled. The energy weapon, faster and more powerful than before, tore through the distance between them with brutal precision. This time, the warship wasn't fast enough. The blast hit the human ship directly, causing a violent shake that rattled every crew member. But even in the chaos, the crew refused to back down. The captain gripped the armrest tightly, his teeth clenched. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. They weren't just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy. Humanity would no longer be seen as weak or insignificant. "All hands, prepare for close-quarter combat," the captain ordered, his voice resolute. The warship moved closer to the enemy flagship, charging through the battlefield with unparalleled courage. They were not backing down. This was humanity's moment, and they would make the galaxy remember their name. In the next few moments, they would prove once and for all that the age of humanity had arrived. The final showdown had begun. The universe had underestimated humanity's power before, but now the galaxy would feel the full force of their resolve. And no matter the outcome, humanity's legacy would be forever etched into the stars.